Some people deliberately set out to offend and hurt us because their aim is to humiliate us, embarrass us, provoke a reaction, and assert some kind of power dynamics over us. Their actions can result in making us harbor the feelings of bitterness and resentment, and while those feelings are natural responses in the short term, being bitter for extended periods can be significantly detrimental to our health and well-being. This episode would look at what it means to be bitter, examine why we experience this emotion in the first place, explore the impact that bitterness can have on our lives, and finally, discuss some coping strategies to help us manage and address the negative impact of bitterness on our psychological health and well-being. Hi there, I'm Aya from the Talking Hub, and we are going to explore the impact of bitterness on our psychological health and well-being. So let's start with a simple description of bitterness. In my view, bitterness can be described as a complex emotional state characterized by the feelings of anger, resentment, and hostility, often driven from a sense of being wronged or treated unfairly in various situations. And as a result, we might withdraw from those who've hurt us and also build walls to protect ourselves from experiencing further hurt or pain in the future. The attribution theory suggests that our emotions are shaped by how we view the reasons behind life events and outcomes. It suggests that we would most likely show bitterness and resentment if we think that the negative experiences are caused by some external factors or the actions of others, as opposed to when we attribute them to our own choices, actions, or internal factors. We usually experience bitterness because of our unresolved past experiences. We might struggle to let go of some negative emotions associated with some hurtful experiences, such as a painful breakup in our relationships, a betrayal from a loved one, a sudden job loss at a difficult time, and being intentionally bullied by people around us. These unresolved feelings can evolve into bitterness and resentment over time, and it can prevent us from expressing who we really are or opening up to others for some support. For some of us, our bitterness might come from a lack of love, support, and protection from our families while growing up. We could also have friends who took advantage of our kindness and left us feeling used and unappreciated. These unresolved issues, rooted in our past experiences, can contribute heavily to the bitterness that we feel, and it can impact our overall well-being and how we interact or form meaningful connections. Another reason why we might experience bitterness is because we have been wronged and treated unfairly. This usually occurs when we believe that we've been treated unjustly, either in our personal or professional lives. We could have difficult colleagues, difficult bosses, or come in contact with people in places of authority or in well-respected positions who are generally not nice people. We might be people who show the willingness to help others, and this can be abused or taken for granted. There might be also instances where people try to insult our intelligence and attempt to walk over us because we are gentle and reserved by nature, and we try as much as possible to stay away from drama or disagreements. The reality is, it can be really difficult for us to let go of anger and resentment when we've been treated in a shabby and an appalling manner. Our feelings at this point can lead to bitterness and hinder future interactions with others. Bitterness can occur when we constantly compare ourselves to others and feel envious of their successes or achievements. Now, there is nothing wrong in being motivated by the success of others, but it becomes a problem when we start losing sleep or finding faults or trying to set unrealistic expectations for ourselves. Social media platforms like Instagram or Facebook can probably add to this problem by presenting perfect versions of other people's lives, But the truth is, our experiences, opportunities, exposures, and upbringing are different from others. We must embrace the fact that we are unique in our own ways, and this can probably help us in dealing with the feelings of resentment. One final reason for how bitterness can occur in our lives is when we set some unrealistic expectations. We might set unrealistic expectations for others without often realizing it, and their failures to meet our standards could negatively impact the relationships that we have. Some of these standards could be being perfect in their relationships with us, regularly expecting praise from them, or being in constant agreement with us at all times. And resentment can kick in once they fall short of our expectations. Bitterness can also develop when we set some unrealistic expectations and behaviors for ourselves too. For instance, we might get upset because we are not thriving in a chosen career path, or our ideas of a perfect relationship isn't what we are currently experiencing. We must accept that we all have flaws because we are human, and also acknowledge that disappointments are a part of life, and this can help us manage our expectations effectively. Now, there are some subtle signs that could show that we are harboring bitterness against someone or something, and these signs could be our strong urge to hold or bear grudges against others, the need to always be judgmental and quickly criticize the actions of others, the tendency to withdraw socially from people and events, the deliberate intention to always focus on our negative thought patterns instead of positive outcomes, the tendency to be fearful, angry, or upset at the mention of some names or thoughts of some people, and finally, getting excessively stressed, angry, or resentful just by reflecting or being reminded of our past events. Although bitterness can act as a form of self-protection and serve as a validation for the hurt that we have experienced, bitterness not addressed or properly managed in the long term can have an impact on our psychological health and well-being. Some of these impacts could be we start developing negative thought patterns because we focus a lot more on things that have gone wrong instead of the positive aspects of our lives. These negative thought patterns can also lead to a decrease in life satisfaction, and because we are consumed by negative emotions, it is difficult to be productive and experience happiness in our daily lives. For instance, we might struggle to focus at work, build a rapport with our colleagues, find some tasks overwhelming because we would rather focus on occasional criticisms instead of the complimentary feedback received from our colleagues and managers. Concentrating solely on negative feedback can make us feel inadequate and undervalued, and it can also affect our psychological health and well-being. Another psychological impact could be an increase in stress and anxiety. Holding on to bitterness can significantly impact both our physical and mental health. We might start getting headaches, losing sleep, and feeling way more anxious and stressed than normal. The relentless wave of negative emotions and the thoughts that come with bitterness can also make us feel vulnerable, exhausted, and weaken our psychological resilience. Bitterness could also cause a strain in our relationship with others. We might not feel like socializing or opening up to others because bitterness makes us feel more critical, cynical, and less willing to engage in any form of social interaction. This kind of attitude can also block chances of developing new relationships with others. People may also decide not to be associated with us once they start sensing a bit of tension in our conversations and interactions. We could end up pushing our true friends away and miss out on memorable experiences if we're constantly being negative about everything around us. And we could also miss an opportunity for developing romantic relationships with potential partners because we are so focused on our past experiences. And finally, bitterness could also have a negative impact on our motivation, making it difficult for us to pursue some of our goals and engage in activities that we once enjoyed. It can also make so many of our tasks, projects appear overwhelming, and we might start procrastinating because we feel drained and uninspired. These feelings can prevent us from seizing new opportunities and making progress because we are overcome with resentment and we're unable to consider future prospects. So we've been able to give a brief description of bitterness, identified some signs which indicate that we're harboring the feelings of bitterness, explored some reasons why we might feel this way, and discussed the negative impact it has on our psychological health and well-being. Let's now talk about some coping strategies to help us deal with the feelings of bitterness. We can reframe our perspectives on some events by challenging our negative thought patterns. This approach can help us see things in a positive and constructive manner. For instance, we could initially feel loss and rejection after a painful breakup, but we could reframe the breakup situation as a chance to grow personally and explore new relationships. This thought process can transform seemingly negative events into an opportunity for personal growth and new beginnings. Another strategy to help us deal with the issue of bitterness is to engage in proper self-care. Self-care activities such as journaling, exercising, cooking, or having hobbies are designed to boost our physical, emotional, and psychological well-being. These activities can contribute to helping us build resilience and improve our outlook to life. Self-care activities can also divert our attention from negative thoughts and help us find joy and satisfaction in other areas of our lives. Loving ourselves and accepting who we are is also an important factor for self-care because it encourages us to place more value in ourselves, set the tone for how people treat us, gives us authenticity, and helps us become more open in our interaction with others. In my view, self-care is actually very important because loving ourselves eventually allows us heal over time. Another strategy that we could adopt is to develop a habit of gratitude. Studies show that gratitude helps us manage our emotional responses more effectively. Gratitude also promotes positive behavior, and focusing on the things that we are grateful for can help us divert attention away from some negative emotions and feelings. Being thankful is about taking a step back to recognize the good things that we have, the wonderful people that surround us, and the amazing things that we've done in our lives, no matter how small we think they are. Adopting the habit of being thankful each day can help us maintain a more balanced perspective and outlook on life. The last strategy I want us to look at is the importance of seeking support when we are experiencing bitterness. I talked about the importance of talking and opening up to someone we can trust 2 weeks ago. Talking, in addition to seeking support, is extremely beneficial for dealing with the feelings of bitterness. Talking to trusted friends, family members, or specialist professionals can provide us with the support and encouragement that we need to navigate through the challenges of bitterness. Sharing our struggles with others can also provide a sense of validation and value because we are not alone. Believe me, seeking support through helpful conversations with others is incredibly valuable because it gives us a different perspective on issues, helps us identify underlying issues, helps us come up with coping strategies, and makes us feel loved and understood. So here's a quick review of what we've discussed on bitterness and its impact on our psychological health and well-being. We've been able to establish that bitterness is a complex emotion characterized by the feelings of hurt, anger, and resentment. We also harbor the feelings of bitterness because we have some painful past experiences, has been treated unfairly, and still has some unresolved conflict. Bitterness could also be identified in our lives when we are withdrawn or fearful, and this can contribute to the negative impact on our psychological health and well-being. However, we can adopt some helpful strategies such as challenging our negative thought patterns, seeking support, implementing proper self-care, and being thankful for what we have and those around us. This will help in making us feel better physically and emotionally, improve and strengthen our relationships with others, increase our resilience for future challenges, expand our productivity in various aspects of our lives, and finally, make us experience a greater sense of peace, joy, and belonging. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to the Talking Hub, and you can also listen to or download this episode on Spotify, Google, or Apple Podcasts.